Welcome back to the Lawrence County Oral History Project. This is the first taping of 2008, and we had a successful 2007 in which we were able to get the testimonials of many of our local veterans during the past year, and we had a lot of great comments. A lot of people have been joining us in and watching the program. We're looking forward to, again, doing this all year here in 2008, and we have had always some interesting people, and today will be no exception to that. Today we are actually leaving World War II and going into the Korean War, and this is a war that we think that after the end of this program you are going to probably know a little bit more about it. A lot of people admittedly have not studied the Korean War very much, but we're going to give you the opportunity to start thinking about doing some studying in 2008 about the conflict that was the Korean War. Again, to my left is a character, and character, would that be a correct? I guess he's a friend by now, and one that has been a tremendous help in the Oral History Project, Lee Hutchinson. And Lee is a World War II veteran and local author, and Lee, good having you back.
Thank you very much.
It's kind of hard to see in that sweater. I'm a Purdue fan, and Lee evidently is an IU fan, but we'll put that aside for this taping today. Yeah, it's a pretty sweater.
Thank you very much.
And next to Lee is Herbert Hutchinson, and if that last name sounds familiar, because we have two Hutchinsons on the program today, Herbert is a cousin to Lee. And so did you two grow up together?
Well, not really.
I'm so much older.
He was
okay. Okay. So how's the connection then? Whose father or mother was connected there?
Well, my dad and his dad were brothers.
Okay. All right then. So, and you were raised in Lawrence County, Herbert?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Well, we're going to be looking forward to hearing your story in just a few minutes. Right down on the end, Jesse Andis. Jesse, thanks for coming in today. Jesse, you're currently living in Paoli.
Yes.
So you had to come up early this morning.
Well, I had to get up pretty early anyway, so it didn't make no difference.
Are you used to getting up early, Jesse?
Well, usually it's a little bit before 9. I mean, I don't just get up early every morning, but most of the time, whenever I'm driving the van, I've got to get up and get things situated to take people down to VA hospital.
Yeah, Jesse drives the veteran van to Louisville. How many times you do that a week, Jesse?
Well, in the last few weeks we've been going, we go 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Mm-hmm. So last week I was down there 3 times because I've got 2 other drivers, but one of them fell and cracked her pelvis, so she was off. The other one had a hip replacement, so he was off, so it left it to Jess.
Well, so you've been on a full-time basis here.
On a full-time basis.
Yeah, so are you retired or not?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I'm retired, but I'm doing more now than I did when I had an 8-hour job.
Okay, that seems to be the case with a lot of retirees today. But it's good having you today, Jesse.
Thank you.
We have, very seldom do I ever have a set agenda, which drives Marie Edwards crazy, that I don't, and even my guests that I have, that because I never give them a list of questions that I'm going to ask them, because we pretty much go off the cuff. Now, my co-host here, Lee, he always has questions written out, though, so I know if I get in trouble, I can always turn to Lee. But last night, in fact, Lee was over at my house, and we talked for quite a while last night. We had a Lawrence County History Festival meeting last night. And we were talking about, again, preserving history, which is a common topic. Well, we were talking that in 1944, General Eisenhower, the liberation of the camps in Germany, that of the horror that they witnessed when they liberated the concentration camps where the Jews had been massacred during those war years. The Russians were coming in from the opposite side. They were coming in from the west. the Allied forces, Great Britain, the United States from the east. And the liberation of these camps was a wide, eye-opening experience for the troops and for the people that witnessed the horror of those camps. General Eisenhower wanted to make sure that people filed by to witness what his eyes was unfortunately witnessing. So he sent his troops, along with making the local German people, to see Dachau and Auschwitz, some of the others, because he didn't want people to forget what happened at those camps. And he made a prediction that someday people would say that this never even happened. And he wanted history to record the horrors of this part of our history. In the Korean, and some will say the Korean conflict, I'm going to refer to it as the Korean War. In 1950 to 1953, I've read in some books that this is called the Forgotten War, because people during World War II, people have a great interest in World War II. There was a period of time in which there was a surge of interest in the Vietnam era in the 60s. But it seemed like the period of 1950 through 1953 was kind of left out. But if you grew up with a Korean War veteran like I did, you heard about the Korean War all your life. For these men and women that were involved in the Korean War, this was definitely a war. Someone's trying to kill you. This wasn't just a police action, in my mind, even though someone's going to call it a police action officially, or a conflict. This gentleman seemed to me to be a war. Full-fledged, what I can read. How does it make you guys feel? And this is just kind of an open question for any of you, Lee included. How does it make you feel that when people seem to either they don't care about that era of time, and that could even be World War II included, or Vietnam, or any part of our history, that people either don't care, or they've never been taught, or they just don't care to be taught, but anyway, they're forgetting important parts of our history. How does that make you feel, to you men that was actually over there putting your lives on the line during these war times? And that's kind of an open question.
Well, me personally, I mean, I don't let it bother me that much. I mean, there's times that it kind of hurts, but it's a situation that we don't like to be felt sorry for. I mean, in other words, but I think they should recognize. When I go to schools and things, and I see these school kids gets up when they're playing taps and stuff, and don't even recognize that makes you want to cry. Mm-hmm. But they're not being taught. I mean, that's the situation. That's my belief.
So, Jesse, you feel like it's pretty important that they remember. I mean, some people have no idea what happened between 1950 and 1953, or between 1939 and 1944, World War II years. You think it's pretty important then that as students today, anybody in our culture, realize that there was an important event happening during those years?
True, because if it hadn't been for the Korean War, the whole nation might be under communism today, because that was a stepping stone. I mean, from there, China to Japan and all around the world. I mean, if it hadn't been for that, we'd probably all been under the communists today.
So how would you, and this again is an open question, but my opening statement about, to me, it was more than a conflict, and I guess I formed this opinion from living with a Korean War veteran. I mean, it was never declared war. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But yet, whenever over 50,000 people were killed during this war, to me it's a war. It's just not a police action. How do you feel about that? To you, is it okay that it would be called a conflict, or is this an emotional thing with you guys, or what do you feel about that?
It's nice that the history is being brought out so that the people will know what happened in them years. There's a lot of things there that had a lot of impact on the whole United States.
It's a lot like Jesse said, there's been so much happen, and so many wars and so many conflicts that the teachers are crowded of all the things they can teach. And so history and perhaps geography have been pushed aside a little bit more for social studies, but we need to get back and teach the children what our country is based on and why we had to fight these wars. Because Korea was communist sponsored. Russia provided all the equipment to the North Koreans, and China was behind them. China eventually got into it. It was communist against the United Nations. There were probably 15 different countries sent soldiers to Korea. And as Jesse said before we started, they needed to be identified, need to be recognized that these countries sent thousands of people. We had about 1.5 million people involved in that war.
So this wasn't a minor engagement.
No.
That's, I guess, the point I'm trying to bring out, that this wasn't a minor engagement. This was, with, you say, over 1 million people involved here, this was a major
I think there
war
were
event.
48,000 Americans died there. And missing in action, et cetera, and all that information. Let's see, you had 8,000 missing in action, 36,000 U.S., this is just U.S. U.S. had 36,000 soldiers dead, Marines, Navy, et cetera. 92,000 wounded, 8,000 missing in action, over 7,000 POWs. And no, it was a major war.
Yes.
They call it a conflict if they want to, but it was a major war.
Yes.
It's 54,246 killed.
Yes. So over 50,000 were killed during the Korean War. So this wasn't just a minor action. This was something that occupied American foreign policy during the years of 1950 to 1953. And the world was involved in this war. That's what people, I think, they don't think of when we think of the United Nations being involved with this. But how many nations did you say, Lee, was
There
involved?
were 14.
14 nations. What were some of the nations that were involved in this conflict? Besides the United States, obviously China, the Soviet Union.
France, Australia, Turks.
Turks and Ethiopians and Canadians
Yeah.
and
And Britain, of course.
Britain.
So it was a united effort with those members of the United Nations then involved with the conflict. So there was actually an allied front there as well.
Plus, I mean, South Korea, see, they were also,
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
fine.
part of the United Nations.
Actually, freedom was being threatened because they did come across the border into South Korea. So actually there was a threat of loss of freedom. Anytime that you have an invading army and you have the loss of that, then so therefore it becomes a major conflict. The United States has always been a country that has been willing to protect the rights even of other people's freedoms. Would you agree with that? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Herbert, where were you born?
I was born just north of Leesville on the place I live now.
Can I ask about what year you were born?
1936.
1936. Okay.
I shouldn't have a birthday, the 26th of
Well,
January.
happy birthday early. Lee, where did you go to school at? Where did you go to school?
Leesville and Taunton.
Okay, the old Leesville High School. Where was the old Leesville High School?
It was at Leesville.
And we're about, I know where the cemetery's at, there's Leesville, and where the store is at, so about...
Just before you get there,
Community building.
it's the first building
old
as you
community
get there.
Community building. We had two great uncles that lived there.
Okay.
We had Emory Hutchinson and Clarence Hutchinson both taught at the old Leesville
Yeah.
School
Okay.
years and years ago.
Was that a one-room schoolhouse?
It was when I went there, but it was a two-room to start with.
Also, boy, that really modernized there, didn't it? The two-room school. And that building still looks like it's in pretty good shape.
It
They
is.
still use that for a lot of community functions, don't
Yes,
they?
uh-huh.
Okay, well, about when did that close down?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I was
I
12.
suppose after the Depression, yeah.
I was 12 years old when it,
Okay.
but
Okay,
no,
so around
That made it
1948.
it shut down when I was 13. But when I was 12, I went to Tunnelton.
Okay. So whenever Leesville shut down, they consolidated into Tunnelton High
Right.
School then? Okay. So, boy, that was a big move for you, I guess.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I only went to the 6th grade at Leesville
okay.
when I was going.
Now, what did your parents do?
Well, my dad, he worked on the farm, and he worked at Kiefer's paper mill. And then when he died, he was working at stone mills here in Bedford.
You remember which one he worked at, Herbert?
Ingles.
Okay, the Ingalls Stone Company. We've had several guests that somehow have been connected with the Ingalls Stone Company. My grandfather himself worked for the Ingalls Stone Company. So, you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I've got 4 sisters and 2 brothers.
Okay. Okay. Did most of them stay around here in this area?
Yeah. My 2 brothers are dead,
Okay.
and they're both younger than I am.
Herbert, what did you do before you went to the war? Besides go to high school, did you have another kind of job, part-time job or anything?
Well, yes, I worked at the general store in Leesville, and I worked at the sawmill.
Okay. Was there a sawmill in Leesville as well?
Well, there's 2 of them just right across the road from my house.
Okay. Okay. We always think I think of Leesville, I think of the Leesville Massacre.
Yeah.
Did you grow up hearing about the Leesville Massacre?
Yeah.
And I don't even know, do you know the location where that would have taken place?
Not really, but they say they thought the Indians out of the Granny White House just before you get to Leesville.
Yeah. I believe 1 or 2 was killed during that massacre in the early 1800s. And I know there was like a fort that was
Yeah.
there at one time and private property. Jesse, where were you born?
Burn City,
Burns City.
Indiana.
Well, where's that at?
Martin County, it's down below Crane.
Okay, all right. And so somewhere along the line, I hear that you migrated to Springville.
We came to, well, actually to Kirksville, and then whenever the World War II started, Dad got a job at Maxton, down building, helped building that up. And then we moved to Ragglesville, and then moved from there back to Springville. So at the time there, I didn't hardly know where I lived. We moved around from there.
Did you live right in the country around Springville or right in town?
Well, we lived out in the country. We lived over between Springville and Needmore, and farmed for Rich Blackwell. Had a farm there. Dad farmed that. After my brothers went to service, I had 4 brothers went in World War II, and one of them had a farm, so he didn't have no place to keep his stock. So we went in and on thirds for Rich Blackwell, so we'd have a place to keep his stock and everything. So he came back from service.
Okay.
I was 9 years old out there walking barefooted, following a team of horses from daylight to dark, plowing and whatever. Me and Dad and my mother, we done all the farming back then.
Now, what years would that have been taking place whenever you're...
Well, that
you're
was
talking
probably,
about walking barefoot with a team of horses plowing, so some people are going to think, oh, now, wait a minute. Where was the tractors at?
Well, we didn't have. We had about 12 head of horses. We used horses. And then... But that was probably, in 42, 43. I was about 10 years old.
Right during the World War II years.
Yes.
Okay.
When my brothers all got drafted, that left me and Dad to do all the work.
So you worked pretty hard.
Well, yes, but I enjoyed it. I mean, and I did that right up until to 1950, and I got tired farming, so I went up and enlisted in the service.
And they were ready to take you.
Well, they took me okay. Well, no, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't
Truthfully,
take
I
you.
enlisted 3 times.
Okay.
First time I went up, I was underweight. I was about as tall as I am now, about 6 foot, and only weighed about 110 or 15 pounds. It worked it off on the farm. But anyway, they wouldn't take me because I was underweight. So I went back again, and same thing. So my uncle, he told me, it's the 3rd time I went, he said, eat a bunch of bananas on your way up there, and that'll make you weigh more. Well, on the bus going up there, I was eating bananas, and all them people thought I was part monkey. But I weighed 129 pounds. If I'd have weighed a pound less, I wouldn't got in then,
So the bananas helped.
evidently.
Yeah.
But after it in there a while, I wished I hadn't ate them bananas. But that's how I got the service.
Okay. So was Uncle Sam being more picky at that time about who he took into the service?
Well, I was working on the farm. There's time, I mean, you couldn't find a job. I mean, that where you could make any money and whatever. And so I went to Dad one day and I said, hey, I want to join the Army. He said, there's war going on over there. And I said, yeah, by the time I get over there, it'll be over. And it was all over the place.
Yeah.
It was all over.
So anyway, that's what I did.
Okay.
And I don't regret any of it. I mean, I went and done my thing, and I'm proud of what I've done, and I'm still working with the veterans and helping them.
Jesse, you had brothers that went into World War II. How was the feeling around the household when you had your brothers going off to war?
Well, it was a pretty sad thing. I mean, you thought about them every day. I mean, it was disturbing. I mean, but back, like I said, I was young, and it didn't, I was busy all the time, and it just a thing that you just constantly put aside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but when they come home, I had 2 brothers that was in the Battle of the Bulge, and one of them, he was in England. He never did get in no conflict, and the other one was an MP in Japan. But 2 of them, I mean, they were in combat.
Yeah. And did they return home safely?
They both got home, yes. One of them, he got hurt pretty bad, but it wasn't anything that he couldn't cope with. Mm-hmm. The other one froze his feet, and they was going to take his legs off of his knees, and they turned black. Then they kept sticking him with a pin, said he couldn't feel, but he'd get to watch them, and he'd jerk his foot. So they didn't, but his feet came back. I mean, he kept them.
Okay.
So it was just, the old boy upstairs protected him.
Yes. And did you go to Springville High School?
No, they didn't have no high school there, and I went 2 years at Olytic, and then I went and served.
Okay. And,
So I didn't graduate from high school. I mean,
Okay. 2 years at Olytic High School.
yeah.
That's when it was. Springville didn't have a high school by then.
I went through the 8th grade, and then, yeah.
Okay. And so in Herbert, you went to Tunnelton High
Yes.
School, Leesville High School. Did you join in this service, or
Yeah.
were you drafted?
I joined in 1954, March.
Okay. So both of you men joined up. You joined up basically because, Jesse, because there wasn't any work? Is that
Well,
what?
not exactly. I mean,
That's part of the reason, maybe.
That was one reason, but I thought that, okay, that I wanted to
Patriotic.
do my part. I mean,
Yes.
I figured that if I was going to live here, then I didn't want them over here.
Okay. So how did you feel whenever you're starting to hear the reports that, they were coming over the South Korean border, and obviously we were getting involved with the conflict? Did that make you feel like that you needed to be involved with this?
Well, I don't really remember it really bothered me that much because I was always, like I said, busy, and back then you didn't have nothing but a radio, and you didn't sit around and listen to it too much, so about all you heard was just people talking, and at that age you just didn't get it all what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, after I got to before I realized what things was, and a lot of my buddies was going on, like Pete Flynn, he left before I did, and some of them, and I thought, well, then I want to do my part too.
So you knew people that was going into the
Yes.
service at that time. You had friends that year.
Yes.
Herbert, why did you go in? Why did you join up?
Well, I just thought everybody was going to do that.
So you want to be a part of that. Did you have friends that was joining up at that time too?
Yeah, there's one boy joined with me, and we stayed together all the time.
Okay.
Went to basic, Korea, and then I had 14 more months to do, and I went to Columbus, Georgia, or Fort Benning, finish out that.
Herbert, where did you take your basic training at?
At Camp Chaffee, Arkansas.
Okay. Was that a camp that was established during World War II too? Had it been around for a while?
I don't know, but I have an idea it was.
Yeah. And so, and what company did you fall in with there?
57 Field Artillery.
Okay, so you were in artillery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jesse, what about you? Where did you do your basic
Breckenridge,
training?
Kentucky, 101st Airborne ground training.
Okay.
But after I got out of the basic, why, a lot of them signed up to go to jump school, and I thought I could walk further than I could fly, so I didn't sign up to go.
So you never had to jump.
So the ones that went to jump school, well, then they had a little more time here at home, but they loaded us up and sent us right straight to Korea when we got out of basic.
Okay. Okay, so how long were you both in basic training?
Well, my regular 13 weeks.
Oh, yeah,
And you were-
16 weeks.
You were in 16 weeks. You were sent right to Korea.
Right to Korea.
Did they send you right to Korea
Right
too?
to Korea. Got on the airplane.
Headed right over.
Right there.
About what year would this have been for you, Herbert?
In
That you-
1954. I left down there in August 54. I went
54. Okay.
up to Seattle or Fort Lewis.
Okay.
Got on the ship, and there we went.
Okay.
But everybody was going from where I was taking basic.
Yeah.
They loaded us up on airplanes, and there we went.
Just for you, same way, pretty much experience the same?
Well, it's pretty much the same, but I got over in Korea April of 51. So I was right there through the thickest part of it.
And how long were you in the over there in Korea?
And I spent 6 months on the front line.
Okay. What I can remember, Jesse, of my father talking about it, and see if I can kind of jar some memories for you in this. He was infantry on the front line of Korea. He talked about the waves and waves of Chinese coming at them. I remember stories from young and always had this picture in my mind. He said that with the machine guns, he said they turned white from the heat, from just constant firing. He said where that the men couldn't even hold the machine gun from white. What's your remembrance about that? Did you have a similar type of experience with that?
Yes, they'd come at you in waves. They'd send a bunch, and if they couldn't make it in, then next thing you know, here'd come another one. And they would crawl all night just to get to you about daylight. And there, in the last that I was there before we got wounded, we done a lot of night fighting. I mean, out and hit before daylight and whatever.
Well, it's kind of
But
hard to
yeah, they'd come at you and they'd make all kind of noise. I mean, they had you, you know they were coming. but you still yet, I mean, it was like you said, that you just kept firing, and of course, I was a 57 McCullough gunner. And what we would do if we got pinned down or anything, we would knock out machine gun nests and whatever, and to fire that weapon, you had to be out here just in a clearing, because it had a back blast on it, and you couldn't have anything nowhere. And what I was told, that your average life was 15 seconds on that gun.
Because they wouldn't take that gun out.
They want to take that gun out.
Yeah. Well, so that made you feel good when you were assigned to that, right?
Huh?
That made you feel good when they assigned you to that, where
well-
you think, well, what did I do to make someone mad or what?
I didn't know all this till after I
Okay.
got old to it.
Okay.
But when I went over, well, they put me in the heavy weapons platoon, the 4th platoon. So they had mortars, and they had the 57s, and they had your bazookas and your heavy machine guns and all this. See, I mean, you was in support of the riflemen, so to speak. And so whenever they set you down there like this mortar, and they said, okay, sit down here and do this, they told you to traverse it this way or that way. And if you wasn't quick enough, well, they'd say, okay, and they'd give you something where you didn't have to. So they gave me that big weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I forget what the weight of that was, but it was around 30, 35 pounds.
So were you trained with this? Did you have any kind of training in basic to use of this weapon? Or is this something new to you?
This was something new to me. I mean, mortars, yes, but I didn't pay enough attention, I reckon, because I didn't get that thing twisted around there fast enough. But over there, a lot of times you didn't use that anyway. You set it on a base plate, and you just held your hand and moved it wherever you wanted it.
Now, when you talk about being on the front line, what I think of is the front line is near the 38th parallel.
It's wherever the fight is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're up, if
That
you're
was-
up front, you're on the front line.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
if you're-
The 38th parallel was just that there was the middle of Korea. That was just that there where the north and south quit. In other words, and north of the 38th was North Korea and south was South Korea.
Right.
But that 38th parallel didn't have nothing to do with the front lines, because I mean, you back on the Han River was the front line. When I went over there, they had been pushed back from their first phase to the Han River, which you've probably read. When I got over there, they were sitting on the Han River getting ready for the next phase.
So
going
now,
forward.
this said in South Korea.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Then where I got wounded was up around Kumsong Valley, and that was north of the 38th parallel. And we had been walking all night and got there to take this hill just about daylight, and they got pinned down, and they called me forward to knock out a machine gun, which I was the squad leader at that time. Of course, my squad leader, he got sick, and they moved me up, and my gunner, he fell and skinned his back or something, and said, well, he couldn't carry that gun up there. I said, well and good, I'll do it. So I went up with my ammo bear to load my gun, and knocked out 2 machine gun nests, and came back. And about that time, the artillery came in, and that's 4 that got wounded.
What was your rank at that time?
Pardon?
What were you, a sergeant? What was your rank?
Corporal.
Corporal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't make sergeant till I got back to the States.
Oh,
They put me in the engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was operating a bulldozer out there in Fort Lewis, Washington. They were making these pontoon bridges in this lake, and a guy got drowned. So they wanted this lake filled up to 2 foot deep. I mean, out so far, about 50 yards out. There's a big hill back there, and so you dove that hill down and pushed it into the lake. So I was up there one day, and I never wore my shivers or anything on my jacket, and this 6th Army lieutenant come out there, and he was standing there and watching me, which rank was froze in the 44th. I got put in that 44th National Guard outfit that went to at Fort Lewis. And he motioned for me to shut the doors off and get down. Okay, I shut the doors off and come down there, and he said, "What's your rank?" I said, "Corporal." He said, "Well, we'll see what we can do about that," and just turned around and walked off. I said, "Ooh, guess we're going to lose that one." So, about 2 weeks later, orders come down, staff sergeant. So everybody in my division, in my company, well, they got mad, you see. "How come you made sergeant when ranks froze?" I didn't make mine through division. I made mine through 620. So I guess I was doing a good job. So so, "Well, you're doing the job, we'll just give you the pay." So
Well, what kind of pay did you make, Jesse? Do you remember?
you know, I don't really remember, but it was less than $300 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, when you got out, you both got that flying 20 or whatever. There was $20 unemployment, and my dad was a foreman in a stone quarry, so I went to work for him. So I never drawed any of that either, and that was a mistake, 'cause working for your dad in a stone quarry.
So a whopping $300 a month, or a little less than that, for that Korea. And Herbert, is that about what you remember?
I think I made $100 a month
$100 a month.
You were private?
Private.
as specialist third class.
Old
Okay.
specialist.
Yeah. So $100 a month. Did you ever get a pay increase?
Yes, but not that much,
Okay.
not that much.
So you didn't get rich out of being
No.
in the service?
No.
No, okay. All right.
But yet, you take that $300 back them days was not bad.
About 1,000 now.
Yeah.
The old song from years ago, "You'll never get rich by digging a ditch." You're in the Army now? You ever heard that one? Okay. I'm not going to sing that. I'm just going to, I'm not going to sing on this program. Herbert, what's your remembrance of being in Korea?
Well, there's a couple of things that I remember a lot was how cold it was in the winter time. Come with snow on and never went off. And then in August and September, it was the rainy season. It rained every day and just poured. Washed out what little bridges they had, and it was just out of the way. And the ground was spongy. You know, when they'd shoot the big guns off, the ground would quiver.
Now you arrived, did you say, Herbert, in 54?
54.
But there was still firing going on.
Well, they was still firing when I come back, but not like he was just talking about.
Okay.
I was afraid till I got halfway across the ocean coming back. And it was a dangerous place to be.
Sure. Jesse, what was there ever a time during this time you're sitting evidently in foxholes or similar circumstances in the night? You say a lot of this occurred at nighttime, that the enemy was attacking. This must have been whenever you're sitting there in the dark. You know somebody probably within a few yards, 100 yards or 100 yards or less of you. That would have to make you feel pretty uneasy.
You were pretty uneasy, but they wasn't that far away. You might be just hearing you can reach over and touch the other guy's foxhole. I mean
Okay.
that. But if you had to get out to go to the bathroom or something, you better let somebody know. Because if you didn't, you might have got it there.
Did it ever happen to you where you had to get out of the foxhole during a night like that?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you had to get out and go do your thing.
Well, so were there times then that how did you identify yourself then whenever you had to make some movement out?
You just hollered out, "Hey, I've got to do what you do." Of course, you had your trenches dug and everything. For your bathroom, whatever, and just right out in the open. So you know where you was going and all, and everybody along there. If I'd say, "Okay, I've got to go," then they would relay it right on down through there. They'd say.
They were speaking Chinese, I guess. I guess you were hearing some Korean during that time at the nighttime. You were, and did you understand any of it at all?
No.
So you can make up. So but you understand what they were trying to do.
The Chinese,
Yes.
I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And everybody else around.
Right.
But no, I mean, they just jabber and go on, I mean, and beat on metal and whatever. They might have had a dishpan out here beating on it and everything. I mean, just making all the racket just to get you all stirred up. I mean, whenever, they didn't do that all the time. I mean, there was times, like I said, they'd crawl all night just to get to you at daylight. I mean, that was one thing that they had a lot of patience, which the American didn't have it. He wanted to get stuff over with and go. So a lot of the times I think we probably hurt ourselves in that respect because we was over anxious. We wanted to get things over with instead of kind of just hesitating a little bit and think about it.
Did it ever go to hand combat during the
One
era?
time. One hill I was on, and I was thinking it was Baldy, but it might not have been. But they overrun us one night, and yeah, we was hand to hand with them.
Did you happen to have to participate in that?
We didn't know.
But you knew it was somewhere close.
I didn't get a scratch that time. But we lost quite a few men that night. But we didn't lose the hill. We stayed. We lost, our company commander, he got relieved and they sent another one up there on this same hill. This was after that we was hand-to-hand combat with him. We were still sitting there. They sent this one lieutenant up there, and we had bunkers. They had a trench dug all the way around the hill, and we had bunkers, where we could. Then he was sitting on top of this bunker. I mean, and I looked up there and I said, "Sir, you better get off of there." Because them snipers, I mean, they could split a gnat. I had no more said that, and he got it right through the binoculars. And he just been there about one day. But he just didn't realize. I mean, he hadn't been there. Nobody, and I should have read up there and jerked him off there, but
Yeah.
I
You might have
had
had
much
that
more
too.
than said that until it was too late.
Whenever you're talking about old Baldy, I've actually heard them talk about that hill. I remember reading about Pork Chop Hill. That was obviously
The pork chop, that was one of the last battles. I mean, that was one that shouldn't have been, but it was the bloodiest battle, I guess, hearsay. I mean, I wasn't there at that time because I'd already got out there, but I guess that was a pretty rough one.
Well, what was the significance about taking the hills?
Well, really, it was you just went out here and okay, they said you'd be out on an outpost or sitting on the line. They decided, well, okay, we want to take some more ground, so you just went out there and you just like an everyday job.
Strategically, it was important, I guess, to have the higher ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only place in the world that you could be on one hill and have to climb 4 more to get off of that one.
Okay. So it was hilly.
That's the way it was, wasn't it? I mean,
Wasn't nothing but hills.
Is that what you remember about Korea, Herbert?
Hills, it was just mountains. There wasn't great tall mountains, but they was mountains.
you had 2 or 3 elements that you had to fight besides the enemy. You had the hills, you had the rain, you had the cold, you had the heat. It was the hottest place in the summer and the coldest in the winter.
Yeah.
But I went over, got over there like April the 5th, and I got hit on the 19th of October. So they sent me back to the MASH station and operated on me and whatever. And they flew me back to Japan. I spent Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's in the hospital. I wasn't confined, but I was in recuperating and all. So they sent me back then to Camp Drake, I believe it was, replacement center, and kept putting me on orders to send me back to Korea. The shipping sergeant kept pulling me off because I had enough points to rotate home, but they messed up my Purple Heart deal, and which the way I got my Purple Heart, I was in the hospital, here come this lieutenant through there, and I was laying there in bed. He just threw it down on the bed and said, here's your Purple Heart, and that's the way I got my Purple Heart. No paperwork,
No ceremony.
There wasn't no ceremony.
no. Just brought it in and laying there in bed and threw it down on the bed, and here's your Purple Heart. So whenever I went back to this replacement center, and then they kept putting me on orders to go back to Korea, which my outfit got pulled out of Korea and went to Hokkaido, then on rest there, you see, and the 44th or 45th National Guard unit took over our place. But they kept putting me on orders to go back to Korea, but he kept pulling me off because he knew I had enough points to come home. Mm-hmm. So finally, the company commander walked down there and he said, if you're going to stay here, I'm going to put you to work. And he made me company clerk. So I was that for a while, and then finally they got me straightened out and sent me home.
Okay, good. And can I ask, sir, where were you wounded at?
You mean, where was I?
Yeah, was it legs, arms?
Well, stomach wound.
Stomach.
Right in through here and down through there and this arm and
Was it shrapnel?
shrapnel artillery.
Lee, would air support have been during this time period?
Oh, yeah, I think they had lots of air support.
We had a lot of air support.
The Sabre jets. We had jets after that. World War II, we didn't have jets, but now we had the Sabre jet, and we had tactical. They did a lot of tactical bombing in that center.
Buddy, I could have reached up there and kissed them boys a lot of times.
I hear that. The World War II guys tell me the same thing. They were glad to see Lee's planes come over. Same way with you guys.
Right. When they'd come over to scrape, and we had panels. I mean, that was real shiny, like that green over there, or purple, or whatever. Mm-hmm. That we could lay out here. I mean, between us and the enemy, and then they'd know where to beyond that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times, them air wasn't out there too far. I mean, they was right next to you.
Right. So you're always glad to see those U.S. planes coming over.
But when they come over, I mean, that was the most beautiful thing you ever seen. They'd come up and they could make a flip-flop and come right back down and do it again.
What about the enemy air?
Never seen it.
They weren't as advanced, were they at that time?
Russia put the MiGs over there, but they didn't put enough, and they were all outdated. And I think our Air Force took care of that.
So our Air Force...
Navy and Air Force. See, we had all these carriers out in there.
Yeah, the first start of it, well, yeah, I mean, they had Russian jets, I think, mm-hmm. and whatever. But yeah, like he said, they was pretty well demolished before I got there.
So the U.S. commanded the skies, or the U.S., I'll say United Nations.
Before too long.
Commanded the skies. There would have been British, of course, Air Force, and then the naval part of it. Of course, I think of Incheon, General MacArthur, and taking of Incheon during that time. That was quite a maneuver. Did either of you come through Incheon?
I come out of Incheon.
You come out through Incheon. Okay.
When it boots on.
Yeah.
But I think, now, I mean, don't quote me on it, but I think Jimmy Sturt flew a plane in Korea, didn't he?
No, I don't think so. He wasn't a fighter pilot. He was a bomber pilot.
Bomber?
In World War II. He did 25 missions in World War II on a B-17, same outfit same type of plane I had. But, no, I think, as you say, Korea was a completely different battle because the ground men had to do most of the work.
Yeah, well, the foot soldier, I mean, tanks didn't do you too much good in Korea because they had all them hills and everything. I mean, the backside, yes, but I mean, they didn't do too much damage to when they done a lot of firing, and the artillery the same way. I mean, the artillery, of course, didn't go over the hill, but a lot of times they was faulty rounds and it'd ball where we was at, too. But tanks didn't do a whole lot of good over there, and the further away from them tanks in them valleys I could get, the better off, because they tried to knock them out. You didn't want to get close to one of them anyway.
Okay. And the same way with the Chinese, the Soviets, and North Koreans, they were relying upon the foot soldier. There wasn't
Well, they had tanks.
And tanks, and you actually saw that, but and usefulness was not very.
But not
in that.
in abundantly. I mean, but they.
Gentlemen, you guys made friends during this time. People that you obviously, you went over with a friend that
Yeah.
stayed with you the whole time. You made obviously some new friends.
Yeah.
How important were these people to you, that these colleagues in uniform during this time?
Well, they were just like family. And I got my address book lost, and I never could ever write any of them.
What I'm hearing from the soldiers during the World War II, Korean conflict, Vietnam, is that the closer than a brother thing is
Yeah.
ways true. That did you keep up with any of these friends that you made during the Korean conflict later on?
No, I would say I lost my address book,
Yeah. So you never.
and I never could ever contact any of them.
Did you ever wonder about them? Whatever happened to them?
A lot. And I've tried to call them.
Yeah.
But this one fellow that we all went through basic training together too, everybody that was there with me. And when he was drafted, so when he got back home, he was going to be discharged. But I had enlisted and I had more time to go, so they let us come out a month earlier so we could be home for Christmas. And about the time he would have been a-coming, I heard that there was an airplane crash with a bunch of them. And I never could ever get a hold of anybody.
So all these years you've wondered.
I wondered.
Herbert, did you get homesick when you were in Korea?
Yeah.
Did you hear from home?
Yeah, I got a lot of letters.
And you were able to write them?
Yeah.
So it looked pretty good, the hills of Lawrence County, by the time you came
Yeah,
back.
I ain't ever seen anything that could compare to Lawrence and Jackson County.
Jesse, you made friends during that time?
Well, they few, but not real. We didn't. Nobody get attached too much to each other. I mean, there because you knew. I mean, he may be here today and going tomorrow. But there was some you got close. There was a African American guy. He was a lot older than most of us. That when I was in there was 18, 19, 20 years old. Well, this boy, he was up around 30. And when we dig in at night, he'd want to dig in with me. I mean, nobody else.
Why
And-
was that, Jesse?
Huh?
Why was that?
Why was that?
Yeah.
I guess he just trusted me more than he did anybody else. So one night there, we was sitting there, and I was up on the foxhole like this, looking out, and they had these lights shining up, you know, these here radar lights, or whatever they're called, up in the sky, so it kind of lighting where I was sitting up like this. And a mine went off down here. And I was sitting there looking out like this, and directly hear something come up the bank there. And then I jumped backwards and walked all over him. It was in a foxhole. It was a rat.
Oh.
Run right up in my face. I mean, after I realized what it was, he woke up and he said, "Hey, what's going on?" I lay down and go back to sleep. We know. But he was a real friend. I mean, and I had other friends there, but you didn't get really close to people like you would think you would. I mean, during that time frame.
That's the story of any combat. We were the same way in the Air Force in World War II, because like you say, you'd see a guy one day and the next day he'd be gone, or you'd eat lunch with the crew and they wouldn't come back that day. So you didn't attach yourself to people except just in your little squad or in your little crew.
Now we'd go back in reserve. I mean, we'd play around. I mean, we'd box and this, that, and the other. There's one boy there from Akron, Ohio. Delmer Couch was his name. And I tried to look him up, I mean, since I've been home, because I used to live in Dayton at one time after being out, and but I never did get to find him.
Did you get homesick?
Well, I don't know where I was homesick or where I was just sick, but but yeah, I mean, you miss things at home. I mean, there was, and my mother, she bought me one of these here Bibles, you know, and had the metal back, and she didn't pay no attention to it. And after I got over there, I couldn't read it because it wrote in, it was a Catholic Bible.
Oh,
So I got acquainted with this boy, and we went to church this one morning. We were both sitting there, and directly he said, you know, he said, this Bible I got said's not what I'm used to reading. I said, this one I got isn't either. He's let me see it. So, okay, we traded.
Okay.
But both of them was metal back Bible.
Metal,
I had one
metal
of-
back,
I had one of those.
metal back
That was
Bible.
a big
You
seller.
carry it in your shirt pocket,
Yeah.
so that might protect you a little bit.
Okay.
And probably did some people. I've heard it
Yeah,
that
you
have.
can read a story now and then what it did. But they were big sellers because the people back home really wanted to help and do something, so they'd
Okay.
send you a little New Testament with the armor plate. I found mine the other day.
So the metal back, the thing was covered in front and back with metal.
No, just
The
the
front.
Oh, just the front, and you kept that in your pocket, so it was pocket size. And did most of the soldiers have those?
Well, we didn't investigate, but we had everything we could call a lucky charm or anything
Okay.
that was going to help us. We had. I mean, it looked like a war.
So it was the metal back Bible in World War II too?
Oh yeah.
And so it was
Yeah.
in Korea?
See, Korea was so close after World War II. That's the reason it was a different attitude. People were used to war. And people, the age of these guys, had heard all the stories, and his brothers. So they all knew about World War II. So it was more acceptable. And now when you got to Vietnam, it'd been so long since we'd been in a battle.
Yeah.
I made a statement the other day. World War II was the only war where everybody in the country was behind us. In Korea, people at home were divided. In Vietnam, they protested and marched. And today, they still question it. So you have the young men doing all the fighting. I was 18 when I went in. They were 18, 19.
I was
And
10.
the wars are fought by the young men.
Yes.
And the old people, and the evaders and draft dodgers stay home and complain and march.
And like my stepdaughter, she had a son, he's 18 years old, and they was going to Hawaii or somewhere, and she come over to the house one day, of course, she said, kind of keep an eye on Ben, said, while we're gone, I said, how old is he? She said, 18 years old. I said, hey, time I was 18 years old, I was over in Korea getting shot at. He ought to be able to take care of himself here. She said, yeah, but he's a little bit mischievous.
And you guys were 18 years old already, like I say, being shot at, but you couldn't vote at this point in time, even at that time.
Couldn't vote, couldn't even drink beer.
No, had to wait for a while.
I probably drank a few of them, but
Okay. Two final questions, gentlemen, and we appreciate all that you've been telling us today. General Douglas MacArthur, one of the most famous generals, I would say, whether you liked him or disliked him, but one of them obviously was famous from World War II days and also Korea, was fired by the President of the United States, Harry Truman. What did you guys think about that?
well, my own personal feelings, I think back at that time frame, they probably didn't realize it, but I think if he would have went ahead and let him did what he was wanting to do, we'd have been a lot better off today. But on the other hand, that was before they put a perimeter plumb across Korea. And they were just hitting just like they're doing today. They were hitting a spot here, hitting a spot there, and hitting a spot there. And then he wanted to do all this which I said before, I felt like then that he was a little bit glory happy and he wanted to get a little bit more recognition in this respect.
So he wanted to take more of the offensive instead of strategically. He wanted to
Right.
push into North Korea.
He was, like I said, he had confidence, but he just didn't have the reasoning. Now that's my own personal feeling.
He wanted to go into China.
He wanted to go
The reason
plumb
Truman
frog.
stopped him is because he was going to go ahead into China and start another. and that built to a real war then. But
But what I'm
he
saying,
wasn't going to go. He was going to send the 18-year and 19-year-old boys. So I have to admire Harry Truman because he stopped World War II and saved millions of American lives. And he stopped MacArthur and saved thousands and hundreds of thousands.
We had one vote here for Harry Truman.
If you ever want, if anybody listening or want to read a real biography or study a real man, study Harry Truman. Because in my opinion, I've studied a lot of history, but in my opinion, he was one of the best American presidents we ever had. Because he did what was right, and he didn't worry too much about what people thought. He did what he had to do.
The buck stops here.
Buck stopped here is what he said, and he and
MacArthur realized that, didn't he?
MacArthur found that out.
but I think at the time frame that this all happened, I think it turned out the best for the troops.
Okay.
I mean, after the Ridgeway and them got in there, and then they put this perimeter across there to where that there wasn't as much infiltration back behind us. See, that was what the whole thing was in the first of the war. I mean, they'd get behind us and surround us. I mean, but now they got through even after we did this, but not as bad. And then they might not have. Then when the Chinese come in, well, then they pushed a little harder than what the North Koreans were. I mean, right there in a little time frame, because then they got help from them, and then it broke loose again.
Herbert, what did you think about the Truman firing?
Well, I didn't really know at the time. And I remember it happening, but I really didn't know what it really meant.
Yeah.
But he was a businessman, and he meant business.
I think with Incheon, I don't think he even had quite full permission to even engage there, I think, until after it was already started, but I guess that's another story.
He went on his own initiative.
He
Did what he
right.
did. I mean, he wasn't told to do that. No.
But he felt it was right.
More or less. And then Truman, he wanted to get hold of his advisories and this and that and other before he gave him an answer on this. But he didn't wait. So that's the reason why he decided, well, I better get rid of him. I mean, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. That's the way I see it.
One final question, gentlemen, and how did your time in the service during the years of 1950 through 53, during these time of year, how did this change or influence the rest of your life? Herbert?
Well, it made a lot of difference in my life. A lot of things that I never dreamed would be there, you know. Like the VA hospital. I never dreamed that I'd ever be in a VA hospital. But they've doctored me for 10 years now.
Did you feel like that this was worth your time to be in the service during this time?
Yes, it was a valuable experience, you know, and lessons that you could learn. And it probably helped me on my jobs from there on, you know.
Yeah. Jesse, same, or I'm sorry.
It lets you get older quick.
Yeah. Jesse, what about you? How did this affect your life?
Well, I think it done me good. I think in that respect, it taught me to respect my freedom and and what we do have here in the United States, and watch out for your fellow man and whatever. And I think I grew up pretty fast, and it made me realize that people does need help. I mean, and I'm not for the rocking thing. I ain't against it. But I mean, if that's what the higher ups think, well, then I think that we should abide and go along with our troops and give them support, and which we didn't have. When I come back from overseas, there was signs on the lawns in California, soldiers and dogs, stay off the grass.
And I've heard this before, and so it wasn't just Vietnam that you started seeing these signs and all that, wasn't it? There was also some in Korea. I think going back to Lee's statement that the World War II was the last unified war, it was already a lot of division even in Korea. Yes, that's a good point. Well, that might have made you feel good to see a sign like that.
But,
Stay off the grass.
Since I've been out, I mean, I have never actually, I'm staying as close to the military without getting in it.
Okay.
So I like I told you before, I'm a disabled veteran, okay, 100% disabled veteran. And I take veterans back for the VA hospital. And I was the commander in the VFW, I mean, for 10 years, 9th District Commander. So I've had my thing, and I'm still doing it. 74 years old and able to do it. So, I mean, to a certain extent. So I'm going to keep doing it until people said, well, it's just free. I mean, it's all voluntary. But I'm going to reap mine one of these days.
Well, we appreciate your service. For all of you three that were with us today and served your time during the Korean War, and Lee for his time in World War II, we want to say on behalf of the people that will be watching this program, hopefully now and for years to come, we want to say thank you for your time of your service during that time. You've been watching another segment of the Lawrence County Oral History Program with our veterans, and again, we are looking for people to fill these chairs. At the end of the program, you'll have my email, my phone number, Lee's email and phone number at the end, and we need people, don't we, Lee? We want people to share their stories.
There are a lot of veterans out here who want to tell the story. It's just a matter of getting together and convincing them that they should, and that we're giving them the opportunity to educate high schools. This program is available to the high school students, and it's available to the public, and perhaps we can make people appreciate more what veterans have done to preserve their right to complain and picket and generally raise Cain about what we have done. But we just need appreciation and we need education.
We want to preserve these stories and for years to come, so we need people to call us. On behalf of Lee Hutchinson, Herbert Hutchinson, and Jesse Andis, again, I'm Norm Taylor. Thank you for watching.